Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Johnson, during my first few months in office, I visited the border and saw firsthand the impacts of the Biden administration's refusal to resume border wall construction. In front of the mile-long gaps in our border system, there is steel that is literally rusting away. You said the federal government is treating your land like a warehouse because of canceled border wall contracts. Have these abandoned construction materials impacted your ranching business?
The areas where these materials are located are impacting us minimally in the sense of like cattle grazing, but it's more aesthetically displeasing, but it's more troublesome that it's sitting there on the ground instead of up in the air serving its purpose as a wall.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. What's the government telling you about the steel bollards they left on your ranch? What are they telling you about it?
There's been zero contact about any plans for removal. What we've heard is just from contractors in passing saying that it's going to be hauled off for scrap.
So the government hadn't contacted you and said anything?
No, sir.
Mr. DeSodel, if that's how I pronounce your name, details surrounding the cancellation of contracts have not yet been disclosed, but it's our impression that the government intends to continue the terminations for convenience. Can you talk about what the impact has been on your company while being on standby, waiting for the resolution, and how do these additional costs add up?
So the additional costs were in excess of almost $1.5 million that we had to absorb as part of our business. So that was, capital outlay at a time when, if you remember, this was during COVID. So our industry was impacted fairly significantly. And the border wall, as I mentioned earlier, was our first foray into heavy civil. So this was a line of business that we were looking to go into. We were actually excited when we got the contract because we assumed that this was actually going to help through COVID. It was something that was going to continue to be operational. So the impact has been significant. I'm not going to sit here and lie. It's not been the only impact. I'm not going to tell you that either. However, it has not helped at all. The most concerning thing for me was the lack of communication. The federal government simply can ignore you. They can ignore me when I can't invoice them. I have no recourse whatsoever. Even my prime had no recourse with the federal government. So that was what was most concerning. It was that the federal government simply would not communicate.
No engagement, no help, no anything.
No, I mean, other than, quite frankly, Congressman Pfluger's office, there was no communication from the government. Congressman Pfluger's office actually helped us through a lot of the difficulty, but I mean, there was no payment, but they helped to shepherd us in the right direction on many occasions.
Is there any way to renegotiate a settlement?
We are currently, we finally got the audit completed. They're offering 50 cents on the dollar for our submission. So that is where we stand right now. So we are actually literally next week probably going to negotiation with the Army Corps of Engineers. And then from there, we'll see, how that goes. It's going to be back and forth, I'm sure, for quite a while.
Please stay in contact with our office so that we can try to help you with this.
I appreciate that.
With that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Yes, I do appreciate.
The gentleman yields. The gentleman